Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Uncaged Leaders. I'm your host, Mariquita Solis, the Uncaged Heart Coach. This show is dedicated to the successful man who, on paper, has it all: the career, the house, the car, the financial stability. But deep down inside, he's fighting a soul war. His heart and soul feel empty. That hollow silence of building walls, being boxed in by the man box. So my mission in life is to help men get a life of genuine courage and purpose and presence, authenticity, and living up to their full potential, partnering with them. So I studied at the Institute for Women-Centered Coaching, Training, and Leadership. I also worked with little boys in a residential treatment center. These tiny little boys were shutting down their feelings, and that gave me insight to these first moments when the successful man of today starts building those walls. So I'm an empath and a highly sensitive coach, and I help men reconnect with those feelings that they shut down. That the anima, the the feminine side, which we all have masculine and feminine sides. So today I'm very honored to welcome my good friend Jacque Salomon. Jacque is a trauma-informed health and wellness coach and the founder and executive director of Seeds to Inspire Foundation, as well as the founder and CEO of Angel and the Stone Health and Wellness Coaching. Her work sits at the intersection of lifestyle medicine, stress, psych- psychology, is that the right way? And healing relationships with food, self, and community. Drawing from lived experience and years of community-based work, Jacque explores how interpersonal stress, unprocessed trauma, and disconnection from self and nature impact health just as deeply as diet and exercise, and why self-love is not a trend, but a biological necessity. So please let us know if you're watching, and if you have any questions for Jacque, please put them in the comments because we're here to explore and have a great conversation. So welcome, Jacque, and I'm so honored to have you here. I feel very safe with you because
Thank you.
you have such a kind heart.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here, and I really appreciate being invited into this conversation. Again, all these conversations are really delicate, so it's nice to be in a safe space where we can really go to those spaces and have conversations that sometimes are uncomfortable, but are so necessary for the direction that we're going as humanity. So thank you.
Yeah, I love that. And a lot of times there's a pitting of men against women and women against men. And I love that you're talking about humanity because we all are human and we all have feelings. And I was talking to a friend of mine just yesterday who was told by her father that men don't have feelings. And didn't, she was shocked when she saw a man crying because she was like, wait, what are you doing? Men don't have feelings, which is, it's, I don't know. I mean, to even hear that story is heartbreaking.
It really is heartbreaking because when we tell those stories, we are completely eliminating the realities that are possible and not probable. Like, what if that story is real? Men have no feelings. Is that really who we are? I have sons. I have a partner. I have brother-in-laws. I have uncles. Is that really the story? Is that generalization really? Is it really carry forth the truth of who we are? Or can we be curious instead of making declarations like that and say, is it true that men don't have feelings? Is that true? Or is it possibly a trauma response to not having access to feelings, not understanding that different feelings don't just fall into two categories of rage, anger, lust, right? There's a whole plethora of feelings in between that maybe conditioning and programming haven't allowed our boys and young men to have access and understand them. Is that possibly the story?
Well, yes, I say yes. I mean, it's a story of curiosity. Like, I mean, every person is different and how they share feelings is different. And even I have friends that have told me that little boys, I mean, that they don't feel as much. They're not as emotional as little girls. And these are very educated and very enlightened, people that tell me this. So it's very rampant, this idea that I guess that men and boys don't feel as much. But the evidence shows, and when we look, they do. They express anger many times and rage and these feelings, which for some reason are not counted as feelings by society, because because if you were counting those as feelings, then you would say yes, men feel a lot. So it's just an interesting narrative that we're living in. And hearing the stories about men that were told not to cry, even at their mother's funeral. Like there was a woman told me the other day that as a child, this little boy and brothers were told don't cry at his mother's funeral because women will be there. So, and I've heard other things similar like that, right? Where the men only cried and they only cried a little bit when they got away from the women. So, yeah, and you work with trauma, and so from a trauma informed perspective, what happens to a man's nervous system and his stress, like um, their somatic system, when he spends 40 years suppressing that grief?
You know, I learned a lesson a long time ago that my anger and my rage at a lot of the trauma I experienced was unprocessed grief. It was an outlet for so much pain and confusion, but mostly it was a retaliation against the world that didn't allow me to be me. And what if we're more alike than not? And what if I had been conditioned and numbed to my feelings and emotions since I was in utero? How can I express things safely? A young man, a young boy in this world, having such big emotional feelings at the loss of a mom and not having a safe place to put that and be told that you're wrong, that you're bad, that you're shameful. Shame is a really, really powerful motivator. And to tell a young man that this world that is made for you, because it is, let's be frank, this world is designed and it's made for the exaltation of males. And what if you're conditioned from youth to numb everything else because being feeling means being attached to feminine, and that means not good. That means bad. What do you do with all that shame? You store it in your muscles, you store it in your central nervous system. And then anything on the outside as you're growing up that reminds you of that, now is reminding you of your shame and you're wrong. And so you retaliate. What if all these feelings are not just anger? What if that's just the outlet? And we're not exploring the deeper feelings that are being expressed through that channel, which is young boys are only conditioned to express them, feelings in very, very particular, very narrow ways. I think that's what we owe ourselves to come to terms with and see men as human, as fully encompassing multidimensional beings that have been numbed, that don't have access and don't have a language and a safe space to explore truly their full humanity.
You're right. And working with men, I see how there's a release of energy, a release of this built up emotions when they're able to talk about feelings in a safe space. Because being shut down, I mean, learning this, it starts at 2, 3 years old, even before they're born, the expectation. So I remember watching, there was a documentary or something, and I think it was about maybe a family that didn't want to put genders on their children. And so that the people were saying, well, how are they going to know how to behave? And I thought, that's it right there. If you're a girl, you behave like this. And if you're a boy, you behave like this, right? And it made me think, I don't want to be boxed into being a girl, because, or boxed into being a boy, or boxed into being anything, right? Just being a human being. Because I mean, that's the evidence that before we're even born, we are expected to behave a certain way, and we're going to be shut down if we don't follow those rules.
So now we're talking like culture, right? We're talking about culture. We're talking about inherited belief systems. We're talking about family culture and family belief systems. You can be in different parts of the world and gender means something completely different. You can have an inherited understanding of what gender is in your culture in that place of the world and have a completely different understanding of that. And you engaging that cultural system. How do we as a human being engage that cultural system and honor ourselves, but also kind of basically assimilate? And so when we're here, we're talking, let's, for instance, particularly in the West, we're talking about the United States, we're here. And the dominant idea is that there's two genders. Like that's the dominant idea. We're not saying right, wrong, it's the dominant idea. That's the zeitgeist we're in. So there's some of us that will have children that we don't want to participate in a system that dictates two specific only genders. And I want to give my child the opportunity to. And I'm just paraphrasing generally. I'm not speaking for anyone. I understand that wanting to extract from the system that is very oppressive and suppressive. And then you have a set of parents that are also understanding that this system is very punitive against assimilation, right? You assimilate or there's consequences. How do you keep your children safe? And to give them an opportunity to explore themselves, explore their identity, these souls, these ancestors who have come back here to help and guide. How do we honor that and give them a safe space to explore this world that they were born into, but also protect them from a world and a culture that does not allow that, right? So I can see both sides. And I think that's where we come together as humanity and understand that I think my role as a mother, my role as an abutting elder in the community is to protect the children at all costs. And that means sitting across the table with everyone's perspectives and say, how do we protect these children, that they can show us who they are, that we can honor the wisdom, the guidance that's coming through, and also teach them that there is a way to adapt to systems without assimilation. That's higher level thinking, that's cooperation without judgment. That's discernment without putting anyone down or right or wrong. It just is. And how do we help and protect the children for what is, while we simultaneously create something new for them and be that bridge? That's the high level work I feel that we're all called to.
That makes so much sense. And how it plays all out also is with, if you watch some of the documentaries with Judy Chu in it, and she wrote a book, and I had her on the show actually, Boys Becoming Boys, I think is the title. So she was talking about the father's concern, what they loved, what they saw in their children, the little boys, was just that enthusiasm for life. Oh, what happened?
Uh-oh.
I'm here. Let's see.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay, I don't know what happened,
Yes.
but you're still live. I mean, even if I go off, you're still live. So let me see what's going on with the camera. That is so weird. Well, anyway, the expressiveness for life, and the fathers were worried that the boys would lose that. So they wanted to know, how can their boys be safe and still show all the feelings in the world without being made fun of, right? So
Yeah.
that's a very
Yeah.
hard place to be in. You want to protect your children and them to be who they're meant to be, but you realize, oh my gosh, if they show their feelings, if they cry, then boys are going to make fun of them and they're going to be ridiculed.
Yes, 100%. Completely agree. And I have to say, raising my twin boys, who were also learned differently. So they had several different um, challenges, culture, society that they had to come up and confront. Um, in all fairness, I feel like there's just so much that I can provide on this position because I am a mother. I'm a woman that was raising young men. There are men in this space that are committed to their own self healing, that are committed to co-parenting conscious, responsible, moral, ethical young men with integrity and wisdom. And I feel like those are the men that we should be giving an opportunity to center into space and partner with us in doing so. That's just my opinion for me right now. I also want to share that when I was young, are you still there? I want to make sure we're still
Yeah, I'm still here, and you're
okay.
going to be live, even if I'm not on
Okay.
here. You'll be going.
And I share this. I'm in the middle of writing my memoir, and I share this, with audiences that when I was young, I was terrified to have daughters, absolutely terrified, because I had lost body autonomy from a very young age, and I was conditioned that my body, my availability was not mine, and it was at the discernment of the male gaze and the male want, and how to stay safe and maneuver through all that. And, having lost myself several times in that battle, having to recover and forgive and heal and come back from that, the idea of spending my whole adult life healing from that was not something that I felt that I could responsibly do with a daughter. My fear was that I would protect her and smother her and she would not have a life. And so I just prayed over every time I was pregnant to say, please just give me boys. I'm prepared for this. And I was a boy mom and I raised young men. And I always shared with them since they were young that they were boys, but they were men that were still growing up. And I always treated them like young men that were still growing up. I treated them with dignity and respect. I conversed with them. I asked their opinions. I held their feelings, but also to make certain that I surrounded them with the village of conscious people, a village that it was not just me, that there was different perspectives and they could learn. And I think that that's what's key for our children, is to help them understand that there's different perspectives, that they can feel and express in safe spaces, and that we surround them with ways to do that. Even when my divorce happened, 20 years of marriage, our divorce ended. And my children were enraged. The anger, the depression, the surprise. It looked like anger. But what was it? It was heartbreak. It was sadness. It was the world that they thought they knew had ended. How do we show up for them and give them the respect to feel the pain, to grieve what they thought was going to be the future for them, to respect those feelings instead of shaming them? Because what happens, this is what we do. When you are not happy, I'm uncomfortable and I don't know what to do with those feelings. Now I'm uncomfortable. Now you're making me think of things that I don't want to think about. Like, okay, so the usually the response is just shut it down. Or I want to help, I don't know how to make this better. Just let it go. It's okay. And then our response is, oh boy, I'm not safe here. I can't express here. I'm not okay. And we shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. It's to get into those spaces where you're like, listen, I'm just listening. There's no judgment. Just feel what you feel, say what you say, and allow ourselves to start stabilizing and release those emotions that are in our muscles, that are in our central nervous systems. Those pains that as we get older, we think that's just because we're getting older. Is it? Or is it from a lifetime of being in an emotional, spiritual plank? Like our bodies are tense all the time. We're doing push-ups our whole life, spiritually, emotionally, and then we're exhausted and our bodies break down and we assume that it's just, getting older. These are the pieces I think that we need to be talking about and bringing them together.
Yeah, and there's no black and white answers here. And what I love is that is this awareness of there are many perspectives, and allowing and having these conversations, knowing there are many perspectives, and welcoming them all, and being a safe space to hold that, and not to fix and not to push away, but just to sit quietly. That's like what a beautiful gift that is just to sit quietly and listen. I'm not here to fix you. Go ahead and share. You're safe to share because, yes, I mean, I know even, I mean, in my own experiences, when I want to talk about something that is deep and I mean, something that's we have to face, I'm the bad guy, right? Oh, there's nothing happening here, right? Just close your eyes to it, right? Because it's too much. They don't, people don't want to deal with my feelings, like my feeling of sadness around this big issue. Oh, there's no big issue. It's easier just to pretend. And then that would put me on, oh, I better bottle up those feelings, those big feelings I have of sadness because it's not reality, and what does that do? I mean, that makes me sick. I mean, physically, I feel it in my stomach right now because pushing those things that are reality down and pretending I'm not going to do that. I did it for too long. And yes, it comes out in our bodies some way. It's not just going to sit there, it's coming out to hurt us.
That's such a beautiful point. I mean, I have been healing and recovering from ego death after ego death after ego death my whole adult life, and welcomed each time because there was the medicine in it each time. But I also want to remember and remind those of us that have been on this journey that there was a time where I was before here, and I didn't know as much as I know now. And with awareness comes conscious action. And some of us are stuck in kind of like that space where knowing I'm stuck in a position that I don't know what to do with this knowing. And it's too painful to hold that knowing and not be able to do anything with it. So I just won't look. I just won't look. How do we respect that, but also honor and invite collaboration and cooperation to help move it? Because we're at a point in history and human evolution that willful ignorance is toxic, right? At this point. So how do we support each other in spaces where we're holding those uncomfortable conversations in a way that we are also really reminding ourselves that not everyone has been on this journey as long as we have? And how do we meet everyone where they are with curiosity, no judgment, and honoring the truth and the reality, right? We want to help people understand themselves and trust. Well, I trust in my own discernment. I've spent a long time trying to fine tune my discernment, and give opportunities for people to show who they are, and I show who I am. And then I get to decide whether or not the frequency or the way this person flows with life or engages life is that how I feel helpful for me? Do I engage that or do I move away? But people will listen to themselves speak. And if you give them an opportunity and you say, you know what, this is okay space. My central nervous system is saying, I'm okay here. And lead with curiosity. Trust that when people hear themselves and give themselves an opportunity to process their own feelings, how many times have you heard people say, and I say this all the time, now that I hear myself say it, that doesn't make any sense. Now that we're talking about it, right? So how do we just do that with the trust of the person that's in front of us to just be curious and ask them questions without assuming we know why they're saying what they're saying, without assuming we know? What if we just opened up with curiosity and gave someone an opportunity to show them who they are and not judge it? What if we were able to deal with those facts and that reality? But what does that take? That takes me to own my own stuff. That takes for me not to be activated at what I may hear, right? That takes a lot of work for me not to make it about me and hold space for you and not be pulled in. And if there's something there that's not aligned with me, to lovingly, compassionately release it. This is not for me, right? How do we do that? We work on ourselves. We heal ourselves. We do our own work. And that way we can share and we can love from an overflow. And not from like a trauma. I'm not trying to change you. I'm trying to inspire you. I'm trying to help. And knowing that being with every person is more information is going to help me become a better person. Having engaged, having learned, having been open, having been humble, right? Having known where to put my boundaries and where to assert them. That's all part of this human engagement that we need to heal from. We need to develop these skills, and we need to come together in these uncomfortable conversations to help each other heal.
That's very true. And we have to remember to, if we feel triggered, to take that space in between the trigger. I mean, how much space is there between the trigger and the knee jerk? Oh, how can we, if we see we're triggered, how can we put a pause in there?
Yeah. Sorry, excuse me for our snipples. I always don't have allergies. When I was in training for my conscious parenting coaching, we kept asking that, like, how do we know we're giving responsible feedback or it's not just us, right? And immediately you sense the activation right away. Your intuition always knows. Your activation is going to be that pit in your stomach, like
Oh,
when you feel compelled to answer the question before the question is even finished being asked, take a breath. If you feel it in your body, take a breath, and start learning discernment of what's happening in your body. Is my body asking me to move because I'm unsafe? Is it asking me to move because I want to support? Or am I brought back in time? Am I being back in time? Am I remembering a time and my body's going, I see this pattern, I'm not safe? Or is it fear of the future, fear of the future, fear of the future? This is going to turn out and I can see that, da, da, da. If that starts happening, you're not in the present moment. You can only be present with the other person when you're in the present moment. If your body's taking you to the past and the future and you're not here, you can sense that. So you center yourself, you breathe, and you do those practices where you somatically have such a good relationship with you that you can be open and you can discern what's happening for the other person, what's happening in your own body. And so when you feel that, it's always best to just take a pause, take a break, breathe, and then respond. If we're reacting, it's an activation.
yeah. And I have been very activated in my life, I'll say, and knee jerk response. And then, I mean,
Yeah.
working and working and working on it where I don't knee jerk response now. And I also, I mean, not all the time, of course, I'm not perfect, but I mean, much better responsiveness, and also not taking it so personally. When we're able to have compassion for the other person, if someone throws a brick at me, there's a reason they threw the brick. Now, is it really me? Am I really the cause of them throwing a brick? Or is it they're afraid of something in the past that has triggered them? Like you said, maybe something that they saw, something came up that I brought up. Maybe I wore a shirt that, that caused a trigger, and they were afraid because something had happened in their past. So, and that's where that's the questioning. What's going on? What's really happening? I can look at the surface level. They're throwing a brick at me, and now I can scream and fight back, or I can be curious and be a space for healing for everyone.
Yeah. And I also want to respect everyone's ability to select their own response. So if I've been someone that has lived in that kind of danger and uncertainty my whole life, I don't have the luxury, nor do I want to offer luxury of being hit with a brick. I'm not doing it anymore. Been there, done that. However, I am okay with maybe spiritually triaging someone. Someone may show up and they need a lot of help and they're hurt and they're broken, and you're trying to help them and they're so drunk with pain that they may swing because they don't recognize you're there to help. And I may get hit a couple of times as I'm trying to comfort someone and calm them down, right? That's the discernment of how much do I want to engage? How much of a healer am I to step in here? Or is it someone that I can just step on the side and, yeah, I can engage that? How do I honor myself in that situation? Right? So where some people are very willing to do that, I just cannot. And I'm not judging, and I'm not being judged for that. Right? How do we all show up to the best of our ability to do what we can do, and how close we get to situations that may not be conducive to our emotional and spiritual well-being, right? So I feel I have family members that have hurt people deeply in times of their own trauma. And I have a certain relationship with them that I adore them and I love them and I think they're the world. But I don't ever diminish the relationships that they have affected in their trauma. I don't try to rewrite the story. I don't try to diminish and defend. It is what it is. And I honor and I respect that. And I think that that's that lack of judgment where we say, how close are we? And how much do we engage that? Um, and I'm a coach that's been coaching myself my whole life and will continue to. I'm always going to get activated because I'm very passionate about the things that I'm passionate about. And when things show up that I feel are so blatant, sometimes I forget it's not as cut and dry for everyone that's just learning or just starting. Like it's so clear to me that it's like, come on, people, what are we doing here? You know, and I want to say, come on. But that's not my job. My job is to be present with what is, engage the conversation, and really believe that people will do the best that they can and be the healthiest they can when you give them the tools and the knowledge and show up in a way that's supportive. And if people choose not to, then at that point it's like, okay, yeah, this space is not for me.
Yeah, I love that. And when you step back, also you give time for self-reflection. You know, a lot of people just need you to, I mean, you can say, hey, I mean, you can believe in someone, but step back and see what happens when they're in that time of like of self-reflection and you're not there. Sometimes just and now I'm not saying that we're there trying to fix or help or you know or mold or anything, but just even the presence. Sometimes, you know, the presence. I mean, there's a difference when someone is there and when someone's not, and they're like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Now I have to sit with what's going on in my life. You know, I really have to take a hard look at it. And that's not, of course, that's not cruel or anything. In fact, it's allowing the person, it's a belief in the person to, I know who you are and I know that you're able to you will be able to see what's really happening, and I'm holding a safe space over here for you. I'm believing in you
Yes,
and I'm letting you go through your process because I know who you are.
absolutely. That's like that sacred pause of just giving that person time to sit and be present with what is and trust that there's an alchemy happening inside of them. Then when they hear it and they're faced with a reality that they've never seen before, give the respect of time to just process and alchemize what they just experienced and just be present what comes afterwards. And to me, that's true friendship. Like you're my friend, I'm going to show up. Whether it's hard or not, I'm going to be there. I'm going to show up for you. I have to know I'm safe. I don't even have to know anything beyond that you're showing up to the best of your ability. And I can trust that and I can show up to the best of my ability. And that means giving you that sacred pause, giving the respect to go, yeah, that was a lot. Why don't we just take a breath and process that and allow that to sink in? So much of what we're facing today is so overwhelming that we can't really take that position of like you should be focused on this, you should know better, you should. Can we just like let's eliminate the shoulds and the coulds and just be with each other and support each other, give information. Let's not judge. Let's make sure that we're keeping each other safe. Let's make sure we're keeping ourselves safe in very uncomfortable situations, but also offer space for people to process a lot of very, very hard truths.
Yes, because I mean, many men have been living this way their whole lives. And so when they see what's going on, it's like, wait a minute, who am I? Why do I have all these, you know, the car and everything, the house and all that, but I still feel empty inside? What's going on? So it takes a long time and it's different for each person, but to dismantle all those years of training of suppression, pushing down feelings and saying I'm okay, I'm tough, and then
Yeah.
also beating themselves up because they believe that they are not worthy because they weren't worthy of love as children unless they shut down their feelings, right? I can't cry because if I cry I'm not going to be loved. So I mean, this is just years of programming that they're going to have to dismantle. And so, being patient and loving and quiet while people are in this process and is so crucial.
And it's not even true in my opinion, because the majority, that I think that's the story that's held us and imprisoned us into this idea. I think there's plenty of men. I have the benefit of working in a community where there's so many humans and male bodies that are owning that their role, owning the position that they have in culture and society, and really working themselves into being that balance of emotions, feelings, and action. And if we all take conscious action based on those feelings and don't let our feelings and our trauma overwhelm us, let them be information and fodder for the action. Let us pause in between the feeling and let's infuse wisdom into the feeling, contextualize it in a way that we can move forward with the conscious action to make the world a better place and our lives a better place. And sometimes it takes one aha moment. This is what I love about my training with like motivational interview and implicit bias. It's really to be in that place of just reflecting back what I hear, giving the person opportunity to hear what they've just said, but also believing that they have the answers. If we ask the questions that we're hearing, the people have the answers. And sometimes it could take years, and sometimes it could just be that epiphany where like, oh, and you can take that new lens and apply it everywhere and shifts happen right away. So respecting everyone's pace is going to be differently, but everyone has that aha moment. And that's the coaching piece that I love, is that when we get that aha moment and you're like, this is what's preventing me from being me, and I can shift now everywhere. And then we can show up as friends and we can show up as community and help that person figure out ways to apply this new beingness into their lives with courage, with groundedness, but also most importantly, I think, is that authenticity. When you realize that you've been thinking a way that's not aligned with truly who you are, and you can really express yourself and be courageous and secure, and that agency of this is who I am and I feel, that's how we move. And that's the space that you keep talking about, is how do we create that safe space for men to come and own all that balance and work through all that. It's a beautiful process. Yeah, is it a lot of work? Yes, but I see it happening in waves, and I'm very encouraged.
That is beautiful. Yes, and it's very possible. And when someone is able to see the difference, so and to hear your stories is very inspiring, right? And so what if a man was watching and he didn't even know how to begin? I mean, this is the first awareness, how to operate from, really, like, a lot of men being in the marriages and thinking, I'm going to provide this and this, and I'm going to be loved. And now they're sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I provided all this and I'm still not loved. What can I do now? I don't know how to show up differently. What would you say to that man?
We're not that different, my friend. That's what I would remind them. We're not that different. The roles that society has given us keeps us trapped in the whys. And my why was that I was in a relationship that when I was married at 26 years old, that is where my consciousness and my development and my healing was. And for 20 years, we walked alongside together in that journey. And when we reached a point where it reached this conclusion, it reached this end, the lessons that I had to develop myself as a human being, the school of life, it was complete. I graduated. But that's not the story I had in my head. The story I had in my head was, this was supposed to work. I'm committed. When I said I was going to be married, it was going to be forever. And I did everything I was supposed to save the marriage. Blah, 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 blah. Or I took back my story and said I did the best I could with what I had. And now it's time to release this person. And now they've learned from me, and they're going to take their life in a different direction. I'm going to take my life in a different direction, and I'm going to honor the decades that we had together and respect that and make sure that our children learn from this as well. That takes a lot of work, but we're worth it, right? That pain, instead of living in suffering and agony and insecurity, and no, it was, yeah, or maybe that's not my story at all. Maybe my story is different. Maybe this is my story and I own it. And if this is my story, this is the way I'm going to move. And I'm going to treat myself with dignity and respect, and I will not allow anybody not to treat me with dignity and respect. And I'm going to learn and I'm going to figure this out. What if that's the fun part of it? That's like, okay, you want to tell me my story? I want to tell you what my story is. And what if we start rewriting our stories and we start doing it together and we start co-authoring with life, with the way we see ourselves moving? So we're not that different, right? We committed to things according to a story. And there's a story behind successful and not successful. What if that's all part of the game and it's not even real, right? That's not human. Human is my heart is broken. My human is I thought I was going to be with this person forever. My story is I didn't know that there was a possibility that I had to recreate my life 30 years later, 10 years later, when I thought, right? That's the story that we all feel. And that's where we can come together and heal. It doesn't matter for me how it looked on the other side, but it looked like I was like, my heart is broken. My future is black. I didn't know this was coming. What do I do now? And all this happened on the other side of that. So I'm pretty happy with kind of like where these lessons have brought me.
Yeah, and it's all centered around the curiosity that you're and not boxed in. Again, you're just seeing what's going on. I mean, living in the present moment, right? Of like allowing what needs to happen and what needs to go, and it can go with gentleness and kindness, but not necessarily leave forever, but move out of this range. So I mean, it's an exploration and it's not a fight to the death.
And why does it have to? Why are we always put it against each other? Either we're either lovers or enemies. There's that that duality. It's like the conflating polarity with duality. Why does it have to be as if we're not a range, we're not a spectrum? And what if we're just somewhere in between and we're transitioning between one relationship to another? What if that's what's happening? How do we honor that story and say, you know what? We may not even be friends at the other end of this, but there's a respect and an honor. You're a human being, and we have now lives, and this is our new relationship. When my eldest son passed away, when he was 11, my world was, my story was, now I'm a mother of a dead son. Or my story was, now he's transitioned into a new phase of life. He exists on a new realm. How do I be his mother in who he is today? How do I honor my role as a mother despite the form that he's in? That story took me through grief and agony into healing and a path forward, and how to take this and create medicine and share this with the world. It's about our stories, and it's about owning that feelings. Yeah, I did it. I did that. What about how do you feel behind it? That's the piece that I think that we need to honor and understand their cycles, and not everything and not everyone is meant to take us through life. And that's okay. How do we respect the cycle and reflect nature and say, yeah, there are seasons. And maybe people are in our lives for seasons. And what is the medicine in that season? And how do we release with love?
Very true. Yes. We can't hold on to things that are moving, and all of life is always moving. So,
Mm,
yeah.
yes, yes.
So, hi, JJ. Thanks for watching. Um, what about what about someone that might say, I don't know what I feel anymore, right? I mean, I've heard stories from men saying, I'm angry and I, I don't know. I mean, that's all I feel, or, I don't feel. And this loss of connection with feeling, what would you say to that person to begin, creating a new life with their emotions, with their feelings? And I don't even like, so I mean, I feel like even those words make people cringe.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. Um, I always kind of start out with movement, some kind of somatic awareness of moving some energies around, some kind of a self care practice. I always say, are you eating okay? Are you sleeping okay? Like if you're going to embark on this, make sure you're physically prepared for what's going to come up, because it's stored in our bodies. So if we have to make sure we are okay and that we have support to do so. Um, I would do grounding practices. I would do breath work, and I would start journaling. Journaling, 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 getting it out of our bodies. In order for us to truly see and understand ourselves, we need to take it out of our bodies and put it somewhere in two dimension so we can look at it, examine it, and artistic expression, dance, lyrics, something that's going to give a voice to something that's been voiceless. And sometimes our throat chakra, sometimes our voices have been so stifled, our bodies have been so numbed, we think we're numb. But tell me one person that doesn't know when they're numb. When you go to the dentist and you're numb, you're like, I'm numb. How do you know you're numb if you're numb? Because numb is a feeling, right?
Mm.
So you identify the feeling of numbness. And what does numbness do? It alleviates the pain. So be aware of it and give a voice and an expression to the pain. And it may not be the voice, like it may not be speaking, it may be to another expression. So that's where I would start, and definitely in community, find someone to talk with. Find someone that's going to coach you, someone professional like yourself that can coach you through these big feelings as they come up, and have a regimen of self-care for yourself to do this. Find community. I think it's so important.
Yeah, everything you said, I mean, it was right on. And I was thinking about one of my future guests, Anita Marriott, was talking about her experiences of shutdown and how she physically couldn't get it out. She wanted to express, but for years and years of shutting down, she couldn't let it out. And
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
I
and,
can share with you.
mhm,
Sorry to interrupt if you were
no,
complete with your thought. Um, I have what seems a limitless capacity for just peace and being uncomfortable. I've developed my central nervous system is very comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the only way to help people heal is to like really have the capacity for discomfort. However, are a few switches that would take me over the edge, and like, so I have to be really mindful of that. But that was a practice because I always feared that I had so much pain and rage and hurt that if I opened up, I would destroy relationships, I would destroy work, I would destroy. So I kept it quiet. And then when I needed to find that, I had buried it so deeply that I really believed that I didn't have the words. I couldn't communicate. I didn't even know how to say these things. And it wasn't until I really started focusing on my quiet and my solitude and my writing and finding that voice again, because it is there. It's just very suppressed. And a lot of it happened in my teenage years where I learned to be very quiet. I learned to hide. I learned to be safe by hiding and not speaking and not getting attention. That was a conditioning and a programming that took an entire adulthood to heal from. Right? So we got to understand that a lot of these practices and a lot of these programs started unconsciously from childhood, and we have to go back and not go back to really entangle ourselves, but find the clues as to how that's showing up today. How do we figure out what happened, and then how can we heal it today? And I think that's really, really important. So thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's a lot of our stories is we feel that this is normal. This is who I am. Has it been? Or was that taught to us in some time in the past?
right. And is it our belief or is it someone else's belief? You know, we
Right?
carry. Yeah, I mean, I used to be very shy as a child, and I don't know. Of course, I was told, like many people, like children are not supposed to be, heard, only seen, right? So, and now I'm the leader of many groups, and this occurred organically. I'll just say, when I worked on myself, I was able to get up and speak in front of audiences without any kind of training. Now, somehow, like I said, it was organic from the self work, because at the beginning of my personal growth, I would have said, no way am I going to get up and talk in front of anyone, you know? But but as I worked on myself, it was like, okay, yeah, I got to get up. Okay, well, I'll do it. And what happened to all the shaking, and what happened to the face turning red? Well, sometimes it does turn red, but generally it never does. I mean, like 1% of the time. But I mean, what happened to all those nerves? Gone. I mean, gone because of the love I had now for myself. It went it was, it was part of that process. The love for myself enabled me to stand up in front of congregations and speak.
Oh, absolutely. You remind me of like when I started, doing the public speaking. And I think part of it was um, I hadn't done it before. So I was really afraid to say things that might make people uncomfortable because I don't know how to not speak my truth. And
Uh-huh.
so it was, then don't speak because no, because then you're going to call, no, just don't speak. And it was that permission to say you're safe. You can handle anything that comes up from when you speak. And I think that training, because I didn't train either, so I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think the training for me felt as if I was training to do a performance, and the performance was going to be my stage to tell my truth. Right? So I was developing the performance as an avenue to share my truth, as opposed to give me the mic, show me the podium, give me the audience because I have some stuff that I want to say, you know?
Right.
And I think that's what developed for me. And I can hear that in you was if I'm showing up genuine and authentic and I'm just sharing what I know and what I feel, what am I training? Am I training to? Am I training to? Like, what am I trying to do? Now the training is how do I make sure that I have so much to say and I only have 10 minutes? I have so much I can speak for 3 hours. Like that's like the training, like stay focused, timing, how to not be loquacious. That's to me the training. But I think that core piece is exactly what you were saying. When you truly know yourself and you are coming from a place of love and humility, but dignity, and you know what I'm saying this because I love you too much not to say it. That's the piece that motivates me to say it outside of any nerves. It's because I cannot walk away and not say this to you. Because now I know, if you know, now at least you have the seeds to make choices and decisions. And my work is done. Like I just need to know that people know. And then if you want help, let's work together. But I can't not do this because I love you and I love people and I don't want to see people hurting or in pain. So I have a moral obligation to share what I know and share my truth. And when I'm invited, I do so. And that's very different from thinking I have to come in and convince. I'm not about convincing. I'm not about trying to make people change. I'm really not. And I don't hear that from you either. I really am about people are hurting. And if they're listening, it's because they don't want to hurt anymore. And they want to find a way to community to get on the other side of this. How much more beautiful is that? I'm not about changing anybody. I'm about helping people who are motivated to evolve themselves and heal themselves.
That is so beautiful. Yes. I mean, you're about seeing the beauty in everyone and calling that power. I see how powerful you are. I see how beautiful you are, and I'm going to stand here and hold that integrity for you, right? And I don't
Yes.
have to, right? And I don't have to force you to do it, but I want you to know I see it
Yes.
in you.
Thank you. That's exactly what we offer people. That's exactly what you shared. When you could have any person stand in front of you and know that when you say what you just said, they feel it. They know, they feel it in their bodies. It's like we all want sometimes to just take the load of the mask and the performance and just take it off and just be me for a little while. Wouldn't that be great? And that's, I think, where we're moving towards. Everyone, let's just take off those. It's just time to just let's be real. Let's just be human. Let's just be who we were born to be. Because that's what we're called to be right now. And I'm telling you, I feel it. That's way more of us. They've convinced us, but there's way more of us that are in this space.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I'm just so honored to hear all of this wisdom. And my gosh, anyway, I'll be processing this through every cell of my body for
Oh,
the rest of the
oh,
day.
thank you. Oh, me too. Me too.
So, Jackie, I see that we're coming to the end of the hour. I want to make sure everybody knows where they can get a hold of you and some final words. And everyone, subscribe if you're watching, please.
Oh, so final words would be I encourage everyone to take an assessment of their emotional, spiritual, physical health and devote some of that energy to be the best person you can be, mind, body, and spirit. We got a lot of changes going on, and it's on us to really discover who we are so we can walk that line of what we think, what we speak and what we do, because that's what's being called to us right now. We got a whole generation that are waiting for us to show them that they can trust us. So I think that's on us to do that. So people can find me and our organization on our website, seeds2inspire.org. You can reach out on Instagram, Seeds to Inspire, Facebook, Jacque Salomon, LinkedIn as well, Jacque Salomon, Seeds to Inspire Foundation. Or my private practice is angelindastone.com, where I do health and wellness coaching, conscious parenting coaching, and trauma-informed, restorative practices.
Beautiful. Well, everyone check out Jackie's links. And yes, thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I'm very inspired and very grateful.
Oh, thank you. And I'm grateful for you and for your mission and for everyone that's going to learn from you and heal and receive your support. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.